If you wanted to take your favorite game and make it better, where would you begin? Where would you look for inspiration? What steps could you take to improve something that's already fantastic? There's a perfect game to study if you wanted to answer these questions. Blizzard's Overwatch. Overwatch took an amazing class-based team shooter, Team Fortress 2, and through years of work and dozens of design decisions, it created a new state-of-the-art for the genre. Let's take a deep dive on Overwatch and see how it builds on the success of Team Fortress 2. In 2007, Valve released Team Fortress 2 as part of the Orange Box. The game was a fresher, more up-to-date take on class-based team shooters with a bold new art style. TF2's original art direction was that of a realistic military shooter, but Valve would eventually retool its look and replace it with the style as seen in the final game. As graphics improve over time, TF2's stylized look has kept itself from looking dated in the decades since, even without a major graphics update. Other games released around the same time as TF2 without that strong art direction haven't aged nearly as well. You don't exactly hear about how amazing Haze or Army of Two look now, do ya? First, let's get the easier steps out of the way. Any game benefits from improving graphics, sound, and gameplay. So how did Overwatch improve on TF2 in these categories? Blizzard, like Valve, chose to give Overwatch a very strong art direction. Stylized, bright, and cartoonish. The art of Overwatch should stand out for years to come. Overwatch has a greater level of environmental detail in each map, which gives each location a more unique feel. For example, look at all of the objects to destroy and mess around with in the spawns of Hanamura or in Dorado, and then look at the simpler, more bare-bones spawn rooms of TF2. Overwatch also had more variety in its maps, whereas TF2 had maps mostly set in industrial desert environments, which, while cohesive, it was a bit monotonous. Now, what about characters? Both Overwatch's heroes and TF2's classes are packed with personality from their designs, taunt animations, voice lines, and even weapons. But Overwatch takes things a step further with highlight intros, and perhaps most impressively, the way every hero moves. This is most evident in everyone's walk cycle, as they are unique for each character. The way a character moves in the third person matches with their view in the first person. Even in the first person view, they communicate the identity of the player. Lucio feels like he's skating around, Bastion and D.Va feel heavy and robotic, Genji sounds light on his feet like a ninja, and Junkrat looks and sounds like he's limping. Most of the walk cycle differences in TF2 are just faster or slower. They're not very unique from each other and they don't really convey their personalities. Really, their weapons just sort of bob up and down and they don't really match with how they move in the third person. Moving on, Blizzard has also added a ton of graphical polish in other areas. Look at the HUD. A silky smooth ultimate ready animation, timers that blink when skills become available, flashy graphics for when the round ends. Overwatch also pays a lot of attention to detail in the typography and layout of its menus. So instead of something big and dramatic, it's Overwatch's little improvements here and there that make it a higher quality graphical experience. What about improving on TF2's sound design? Instead of just adding more lines of dialogue or improving audio quality, Overwatch uses sound differently to improve upon the core gameplay. The gameplay in a class-based team shooter rewards teamwork. It's right there in the name. Overwatch is no different. The quickest way to lose a match is to charge in alone into the front lines. So, how do you encourage teamwork? In a game where the team with the best communication often wins, your team can do a lot better by just bumping up the amount of communication. What if the game automatically called out events? TF2 sometimes does that, as there are callouts for pushing the cart, when someone is on fire, if someone is capping a point, and other situations. Overwatch adds to this idea. Players will hear when teleporters exist, and they will also hear unique voice lines for when ultimate abilities are in use. Having automatic callouts lets you get more information out of teammates that can't or won't use a microphone. Character voices, footsteps, and other action sounds are also more dynamic in Overwatch. They change, not just by how far away you are from the source of the sound, but also how important the sounds are. For example, the ultimates of your enemies are significantly louder than those of your allies. All of this dynamic audio lets you concentrate on what the other team is doing, without as many distractions. What about gameplay? Class-based team shooters revolve around the game's characters, their movesets, and how they're balanced with each other. To improve a game like this, you might think you could just add more classes. And Overwatch does do this. There are over double the number of classes compared to TF2. But Overwatch mixes and matches classes, and adds some new mechanics and new combinations of abilities to make the range of characters better. Overwatch's roster starts with many close parallels to many of TF2's classes. Mercy as the medic, Junkrat as the demo man, Torbjorn as an engineer. But then you add some twists to other TF2 classes. Pharah is a soldier with easier mobility, Bastion is a fragile heavy with a bit less mobility, Hanzo is a sniper with wall hacks, and after that, they create entirely new characters by mashing together specialized TF2 loadouts. Lucio and Pharah take the Pyro's pushback mechanics, Genji can use reflect mechanics like a Pyro, and can double jump like a scout. Symmetra can shield players, which is similar to how the medic can overheal, and she also gets the engineer's teleporter. Reinhardt's charge is similar to that of a demo man's charge, and a character like Zenyatta can damage at range, debuff, and heal all at once. Lastly, Blizzard adds in totally new mechanics to make even more characters, with area healing for Lucio, Soldier 76, and Ana, completely unique barriers for Zarya, D.Va, Winston, and Reinhardt. Winston gets a no-aim weapon. You can change your opponent's mobility with Mei's freeze gun and Lucio's speed boost. Even without coming up with all that many new mechanics, you can still get a lot of fresh feeling character designs by mixing and matching like this. So far, we've talked about how Blizzard has improved on TF2's graphics, sound, and gameplay. But that's usually not enough to make a new game really stand out from its predecessors. There are plenty of new games out there that have taken beloved older games, improved on its graphics or improved on gameplay mechanics, and have still struggled to really catch on with players. To really stand apart from TF2, Overwatch came up with its own setting and its own themes. Instead of a 1950s Cold War setting, the backdrop is a near-future Earth set after a robotic uprising, where a supergroup of specialized fighters try to rebuild their reputations in order to save the Earth once again. That's simple enough to do, but in changing the setting, all of a sudden some of the design decisions made in TF2 might not work in the context of Overwatch. Blizzard needed to identify and fix these problems to make Overwatch feel cohesive. To see how a difference in a game's setting can cause design changes, let's take a look at an example: character skins. TF2 has a strong red versus blue theme that it sticks to in its uniform design. Characters wearing uniforms make sense in TF2's lore, but Overwatch, on the other hand, treats its characters more like superheroes, and therefore doesn't have to use uniforms in its character design. Plus, if characters in Overwatch don't have to wear a uniform, then you can do more dramatic costume changes than you did in TF2. Dropping uniforms also presents a design challenge. If the characters in Overwatch don't have to look like their team members, and players on opposite teams can look like each other, then how do you know who to shoot? To solve this, Blizzard outlines all opponents in red, and makes it so that you are always fighting against the red team. A simple but effective solution. The designers of Overwatch broadened the range of character designs that would feel like they fit in the game, opened up an opportunity to customize and make money with cosmetic items, and change how some of the core gameplay has to work. 3 significant changes about character costumes, all caused by the change in setting. We've seen how Overwatch improves on what TF2 does already, and how Blizzard made their changes fit into the new context of Overwatch, but there has been 8 years of new games and new ideas since the release of TF2. So let's take a look at some other popular games for more improvements. First of all, each character has their own abilities, cooldown timers, and ultimates, very similar to that of a MOBA. The character design in Overwatch is also very heavily inspired by many common tropes found in MOBAs. The best example of this would be Roadhog, who serves the role as the hook character, similar to that of Pudge in Dota 2, or Blitzcrank and Thresh in League of Legends. Instead of using TF2's static kill screen, Overwatch uses kill cams similar to that of Call of Duty. There are also tons of games that have separated their serious and less serious player pools into different game modes, which helps everyone get what they're looking for in a play experience, a huge improvement on the matchmaker options in the early days of TF2. Even Blizzard's own games are great opportunities to fold in new ideas. Team Fortress started the hat economy, but Blizzard has been tinkering with it for years in World of Warcraft, Diablo 3, Heroes of the Storm, and Hearthstone. Even the ceremony that plays when you open a loot box is very close to Hearthstone's card pack opening animation. Blizzard also looked to the wider gaming community for inspiration. Overwatch added some ideas for character ultimate abilities that were literally hacks and exploits in other games. Soldier 76 and McCree's ultimates are aimbots, Widowmaker can see through walls, Hanzo's ability no-clips the map, and Zenyatta becomes invincible. While Blizzard was borrowing ideas from other games and genres, it was also important to think about what ideas would not work if you transplanted them into Overwatch. Even though Overwatch heavily mixes in MOBA concepts, it smartly keeps some of them out. They kept away from some of the more time-consuming menu-driven bits to better fit in with the quicker pace of a shooter. You don't see things like leveling up, shops, or ability trees, for example. Making a new game like Overwatch also lets a design team remove old genre conventions that don't really serve a purpose in a new design. Overwatch streamlined some of the more fiddly bits of TF2, like wondering when a health pack will respawn, or how it removes ammo pickups entirely. Really, inspiration can come from just about anywhere, and it's often more effective to start from something that other games have tested than to create everything from scratch. That being said, a game is way more likely to stand out if it shows off something new. To do this, the designers of Overwatch have done a lot of work to make the downtime in between matches feel much livelier. My favorite addition is the play of the game. Take the last kill cam concept from Call of Duty and add in slick visuals to create a Sports Center worthy highlight for every game you play. Even after hundreds of matches, I still love seeing these highlight reels at the end of each game. Even when the game picks a weird moment, the packaging still makes the game end on a high note. Who doesn't love watching a good Torbjorn corpse replay, or Lucio pushing like 4 people off the map at once? I really hope that future games take this idea and expand it. Blizzard also had another new idea, a new way to show leaderboard stats. You don't get to see how any other team member is doing, instead, you see your own stats, and a gold, silver, or bronze medal if you're in the top 3 of your own team. That change, getting away from focusing on everyone else to focusing on how you yourself are performing, lowers chat toxicity by making it harder to single out less skilled team members, while still telling you just how well you're filling your own team role. Overwatch's new ideas are not dramatic. They're smallish tweaks that still improve the game in a meaningful way. You don't need to add a huge number of new ideas. As long as they're fresh and worthwhile, a little will still go a long way. Overwatch has brought the state-of-the-art forward, mixed in some of the greatest hits from other genres, and added a few killer features of its own. Now, Overwatch isn't flawless, no game is, but combined so many ideas and improvements into one fantastic game that it instantly became the go-to example for what a class-based shooter can be. The beautiful thing about this process is that it never ends. Someone in the future will think about Overwatch, its imperfections, and the new lessons designers will learn over the coming years, and make something that pushes that bar even higher. That's the game I can't wait to play, but for now, I think I'm gonna play some Overwatch. Gonna get some skins.